We have Brian Cleary on the line. Brian, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Sarah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So you have a problem with the Specsavers ad. Can you explain to me what the issue is?
Yeah, so essentially hearing loss is the butt of the joke for the ad, and it's something that Specsavers did in the past, and I was on to Liveline maybe 2 or 3 years ago in response to a previous ad that did the same thing. And they seemed to change tack after that, and they moved towards more positive advertising, talking about the joy of finding lost sound again. And, they're doing the same thing now, and basically the advert involves a man who mishears his wife and, thinks she's asked him to throw her dress in the bin, and it kind of, makes a joke of his hearing loss.
Okay, well, I tell you what, so that everyone's aware, I think a lot of people may have heard that ad, but just so everyone's aware of what we're talking about, let's have a listen to it.
Bill?
Yes?
Can you throw my green dress in the bin?
Are you sure?
Yep.
It's not that bad, love. And when your sister said you looked like a courgette, I'm sure she meant it in a cute way.
Bill.
We could at least donate it. There must be someone who could get good use out of it. Maybe turn it into a pair of curtains.
I said put it in the laundry bin, Bill.
Oh, right.
Not hearing the whole conversation?
Yeah, so it's meant to be funny, Brian, obviously. That's the aim. You don't find it funny.
Yeah, so I had sudden hearing loss. So, about 1,000 people in Ireland every year will develop sudden hearing loss. And it's devastating. It's a very traumatic event. How you relate to the world changes. You've lost one of your senses, or it's greatly diminished. And your role in society and your social role changes because you can't hear everything that's going on. And it's a very traumatic experience. And I kind of described this a couple of years back, and, the tinnitus that I had to put up with and learn to live with. And, it triggered a couple of days of phone calls, and the company changed their advertising tack after that, but they seem to be back to, making fun of a disability, which is just, as I know there are people out there who are going through what I went through, and they're in a difficult situation, and the health professionals who should be helping them, they're using their hearing loss as the butt of a joke to sell products. Well,
we do have a response from Specsavers now. I'll get to that in just a second, but just so that I suppose we can really understand where you're coming from. So you developed tinnitus. Can I ask you, what age are you, and when did you start getting hearing loss problems?
I lost my hearing in my left ear overnight when I was 41.
Right.
So I just woke up on Stephen's Day and it was gone. And, I've a cochlear implant now, and it's been amazing. But after suddenly losing the hearing, my brain essentially made up for that lost sound with very severe tinnitus. So it was a very traumatic experience. There's people who find it really difficult to deal with it. I was fortunate. I was able to get help and get a cochlear implant, and that deals with my tinnitus. And
what is, for people then who don't know what tinnitus is, can you explain what's it like to live with that or to have that condition?
Yeah, so if you imagine you're standing under a very loud waterfall and you've got that really loud white noise, or, you're listening to water turning to steam on hot rocks, that really loud white noise sound, and it's probably of the volume of a hairdryer or a hoover. And that's what you all day, every day, when you're trying to go to sleep, when you wake up in the morning, when you're trying to have a conversation with someone. And it's just very difficult to deal with and put up with. And, you need help. If you get sudden hearing loss, people need to urgently get seen by an ENT specialist. They need treatment with steroids, and that might prevent, them from permanently losing their hearing or reduce the degree of loss. I was unfortunate. I didn't get the steroids on day 7. So, my hearing loss was irreversible. But health professionals, particularly people working, audiologists, should be out advocating for awareness for conditions like sudden hearing loss. They should be supporting deafness charities, of which there's many of them out there, not making fun of hearing loss. Our senses are so important to us.
Well, yeah, and you're making a good case, but actually just on the awareness point, it's a good point at which to bring in what Specsavers have said to us. So they say that this radio advert is part of a bigger campaign that's encouraging people to take action if they're experiencing hearing loss. And they say the fact is that everyone mishears, and sometimes it can creep up on you, but it has a big impact on people's lives. And then they say, sadly, sadly, people don't really want to engage with hearing health. There is still a stigma. And we've found, say Specsavers, that by highlighting how people mishear with light-hearted stories, it makes it more relatable and helps people to talk about it. And they go on to say then we would never intend to cause any offence. This is the only complaint we've received, but we take every piece of feedback seriously and we'll always review what has been shared with us and carry any learnings forward into future creative work. But on that central point that they're making there, Brian, that they've actually found, they say this is actually part of an awareness campaign, and using humour is a good way to draw people in, because actually, as it happens, when we were talking about it this morning, I knew the ad, I'd noticed the ad, obviously because of the way it's structured, very cleverly, so I had noticed it.
Yeah, I suppose we're doing their work for them now, discussing the ad, but I suppose my engagement with Specsavers was that the ad, is using humour and, putting people with hearing loss in as the butt of the joke. And if you talk to someone who had experienced it or was going through it, they wouldn't find the ad that funny and would probably give them that feedback if they had asked. In engaging with them, I suggested that they do some work around raising awareness of conditions like sudden hearing loss. People aren't aware of it, and I wasn't aware of it, and I didn't get the treatment I needed straight away. Their audiologists are part of identifying sudden hearing loss, and instead they're using deaf people or a disabled group as the butt of a joke, and they stopped doing it about 2 or 3 years ago. They went to more positively framed ads about people finding lost sound, and they're back now to this comedy approach.
Well, let's just have a listen to the ad again now that we've had a bit of a discussion about it. We might have a listen again.
Bill?
Yes?
Can you throw my green dress in the laundry bin?
Are you sure?
Yep.
It's not that bad, love. And when your sister said you looked like a courgette, I'm sure she meant it in a cute way.
Bill.
We could at least donate it. There must be someone who could get good use out of it. Maybe turn it into a pair of curtains.
I said put it in the laundry bin, Bill.
Oh, right.
Not hearing the whole conversation?
Yeah, so that's it. I'd be very interested to hear from listeners on this to 51551. You can call us 0818715 What are your views on that ad? Is it funny? If you have hearing loss issues, do you find it funny, or do you agree with Brian that it is offensive? Brian, just before I let you go, I want to ask you just about, now that you have your senses sort of back and you have the cochlear implant and you have the silence, thank God, you've got away from the tinnitus, which is great. You really appreciate having your senses. I know, is it Cork that you're in at the moment, West Cork?
Yeah, out in Crookhaven looking out to the sea at the minute. Yeah, so it's beautiful. It's a beautiful part of the world. And we went sea kayaking last night with the Atlantic sea kayaking group from Reen Pier, and it was just spectacular. There's bioluminescence in the water, so there's these little blue sparks, bumping off the boat and coming off your paddle as it got dark. Bioluminescent plankton, and then the meteor shower overhead, and the moon rising up over the pier in Reen. It was absolutely incredible. So our senses are important to us. If someone had just lost their vision and there was an ad making fun of people not being able to see properly, or if someone was in my situation where you've woken up and your hearing is greatly altered or diminished, and the health professionals who are supposed to look after you are essentially making fun of you on the radio.
Yeah, well, the health they are offering a service. Like, in fairness to Specsavers, they're offering a service to help people who are in situations like yourselves. So
and I think it's an incredibly valuable. People need to be told by their audiologists that there are conditions out there where you can suddenly lose your hearing and you need urgent treatment, and they're part of the health promotion for conditions like that, and they've got pretty incredible advertising company behind them, and they could get that message out really well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you've made your point really well, Brian, and as we have the response from Specsavers and their point of view, and as I said, if people want to get in touch on that issue, you can text us to 51551. Brian, thank you so much for joining us on the programme today. Well, we were speaking to Brian earlier about the Specsavers ad. He's very unhappy with it. He feels it's making fun of people who have problems with sudden hearing loss or hearing loss. Well, John joins us on the line, and John, you're very welcome to the programme this afternoon. Tell me your own situation.
Yeah, my hearing, I lost it about 25 years ago. Literally went to bed one night, woke up the next morning, and my hearing was pretty much gone in my left ear. And did all what I knew of, went to the GP at the time, etc., and was sent on then to specialists and stuff. And basically, the upshot of it was I was told I had to learn to live with it. The hearing loss included tinnitus, etc., which has been up and down, but I've had that pretty much for the last 25 years.
Okay, so that's not dissimilar at all to Brian. Actually, he went to bed and woke up this following morning with the hearing loss in one ear as well. So what do you make of the Specsavers ad then? Are you offended by it?
I heard it several times and I laughed, and kind of reminded me of actually my own at home with my own wife for different reasons, when I maybe choose not to hear things that she tells me as well. So there might be some aspects that I would jokingly, and my kids would say, I have self-suited hearing loss as well. Okay. But look, it's more, I try to be a little bit, how would you put it, humorous about it, and that people know, that friends of mine, family, etc., would know that I have it, and that, as my kids would say, is that your good ear, your bad ear, etc. But I suppose my thing is, that gentleman earlier, he spoke about people being offended and people, whether it's sight loss, etc. I've known people who've had sight loss and whatever, and they're the last people in the world that would want, our hearing loss, much worse than I have, but they would be the last people that would want to be kind of treated with kid gloves about it.
Okay.
They would sort of say, like, don't expect me to look at it. It's not to make light of it, but they don't, most people that have issues or whatever, they learn to live with it. They don't want to be treated any differently.
Okay.
And
so it's a bit of fun, and you'd accept what Specsavers is saying then, that this is by highlighting this with light-hearted stories. In fact, it sort of brings the issue of hearing loss to people's attention.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, John,
younger people, same thing, that they might act a little bit sooner than some of us back along through the years would have, to maybe to preserve their hearing,
John, thanks for getting in touch with your point. That's very interesting. It's the opposite to how Brian sees it, and that's why this programme is so interesting, because we hear all the different views.